Your mindset is the root of your reality. If you can change your mindset, then you can change your life. Welcome, Master Your Vibe. Mind bright, vibe right. The mindset reboot for those ready for some calibration to their vibration. I'm your host, King Yes Indeed, your guide for this vibrational journey, here to help you conquer any mental blocks, fine-tune your inner frequency, and navigate to your higher self. If you're ready to make your mind bright so you can vibe right, then you're in the right place. Let the journey begin. Yes, indeed. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Master Your Mindset. And today we're going to be talking about the lens dimension. This is the first dimension. It is the foundation for all the dimensions, the 7 dimensions of Master Your Mindset. Every other aspect of the mindset builds from this dimension, because before you can change your habits, before you can write your own and tell your own story, before you can rewire your identity, you must first recognize the lens which you are using to view the world. All right, this is the lens and how you see things. And first, we're going to talk about what is the lens dimension. The lens dimension is the filter that shapes your perception. It's how your brain selects, how it interprets, and how it labels everything that is happening to you, that is happening around you. If you think of it, your lens is like a pair of glasses with different levels of prescription. Some are just for readers, some are nearsighted, some are farsighted, bifocals, trifocals, all of the above. The great thing about the lens is that the lens in your glasses doesn't change reality. It changes how reality looks to you. All right. So depending on your prescription, reality can look very different to many different people. All right. So let's talk about how these lenses are formed. And it can be a lot of different things. We can talk about past trauma, things that happen to you at any different age, old, young, at work, at home, military trauma, which me and my wife experienced. So all of those things. It can come from success. It can come from failure. It can come from the way you were raised. It can come from many different things. It can stem from things that you constantly repeat, right? Your belief system and the stories that you tell yourself. So it can come from repetitive things that you constantly do, repeated thinking about whether you're worrying, whether you're judging, whether you're constantly comparing yourself to someone else because you feel like you don't add up. These repeated habits eventually hardwire into the lens, and then that becomes how you see and interpret things. It can also come from your environment. Your environment can form your lens culturally. Different races, different practices. It can come from family. Different rituals, different holidays that you may celebrate. It even can come from media influence. What you watch on TV, what you listen in the radio. All of these things, the news channels that you watch, all of these things are shaping and forming the lens in which you see and interpret everything around you. So, for example, I'll give you an example of how this may work. You're out in public and let's say someone cut you off in traffic, right? Your reaction is going to be determined by the lens you usually use to deal with that type of event. So if you use the lens of anger, you might see something like disrespect. You might see an idiot. You might see a knucklehead. You might see somebody just playing around and doing some dangerous things. But if you look through the lens of compassion, now you might see someone rushing to an emergency. You might see someone who's having a medical condition. You might see someone who has to be somewhere urgently, and the only means they have to get there is by taking the road that they take, which included cutting you off. Another example, somebody could just outright snap at you. Um, they could take all their frustration out on you. Being mean, being spiteful, um, and you know well you didn't do anything at all, right? And so through the retaliation lens, you might snap back. You might cuss the person out. Even worse, you might want to put some hands on. I know some people that's like that. They don't take no mess. However, through a lens of understanding, you might recognize that this person is hurting emotionally. They could be in some physical pain. They could be dealing with something that you are not aware of. And so you could simply respond by asking what's wrong, or trying to get to the root cause of why they are treating you that way. And again, that's the lens of understanding. The glasses people wear can be the same style. The lenses can be in the same style of glasses. They can be of the same brand. They can be the same price. They can even be from the same store. But what is different is the prescription in the glasses, in the lenses. And that is what causes us to see things differently. So why even talk about this? Why is it important? In the lens dimension, your lens influences what you notice. It influences how you feel about what you notice. And then it influences the actions that you take next. Your lens can indicate self-awareness. Most people mistake the lens for what's real, right? By noticing your lens and how you perceive things, you will soon realize that the lens you see, it's optional. You have the option to perceive things in any way you desire or choose, or any way that you see fit given the circumstance. Okay, your lens often dictates what action you take or what action you don't take. Right? If you're looking to change or to grow, then you can try to swap your lens to help you change your interpretation of things. Once you swap your lens, you will soon find that it changes your perception, and in turn, it changes your choices. All right, and then it ultimately changes your actions. So first, your lens is important because it can indicate a level of self-awareness, and the lens dictates what you do with that, how you interpret, and then how you act. All right. Now, if you are not able to notice or understand how you see things, if it isn't clear, you can find yourself in what's called the lens loop. All right. The lens loop is where your perceptions of things are negative or maybe even unhealthy, and your thoughts keep you in a place where your thoughts justify your feelings, and then your feelings justify your behavior, and then your behavior justifies your thoughts, and then your thoughts justify your feelings, and then your feelings justify your behavior justifies your thoughts, and round you go. You will constantly remain in that loop. And that's why understanding and recognizing the lens dimension is important. And let's talk about some common types of lenses. We have some negative lenses, and we, of course, have some empowering lenses. Lens number one, the threat lens. The threat lens is a mental filter that prioritizes scanning for what could go wrong. This is rooted in the brain's survival instinct, the fight or flight, or you just freeze up, right? And in a crisis, most people will do one of those things. They stand and face it and fight back. They run away and flee, or they just freeze up because they are unsure of their abilities or the skills or what to do, or fear may just have taken over them. All right, this shapes thoughts, emotions, and behavior toward defensiveness and self protection. So, on the threat lens, your number one thing is to become defensive and to protect yourself. So, fight, flight, freeze. The anger lens. The anger lens is the mental and emotional filter that interprets situations primarily through frustration, blame, or hostility. And I know I've been in this lens before. Sometimes easily frustrated, uh, blaming others for the things that have gone wrong, and then hostility is the retaliation, just kind of fighting back, putting hands on somebody. So instead of seeing events neutrally or with curiosity, this views them as injustices or personal attacks, or as um, being provoked. They're provocative. They provoke you to anger. They poke the bear, so to speak. Um, and so that's the anger lens. The judgment lens. The judgment lens is the mental filter that interprets experiences, people, or even yourself through criticism, comparison, and labeling. And this is instead of asking questions or giving yourself grace or giving yourself compassion. And it's not about this lens. The judgment lens is not a space where you are discerning information wisely. We call it healthy judgment. It's about a constant evaluative stance that divides life into this or that, A or B. It's a good or bad, right or wrong. It's a up or down. It's a worthy or unworthy. And that's it. There's nothing in between. All right. The threat lens, anger lens, and judgment lens. And those are obviously some of the negative lenses. Let's talk about some of the empowering lenses. The challenge lens. This lens is the filter that interprets obstacles, stressors, and difficulties as a test of strength. They interpret them as opportunities to grow. They interpret them as invitations to elevate yourself to a higher level. And this is in contrast to something being a threat, the fight, flight, or freeze. This is in contrast to that. All right. It's about reframing struggle from breaking to building. Okay. That's the challenge lens. The possibility lens. The possibility lens is the mental filter that interprets life through openness, creativity, and vision. So instead of focusing on limits, this lens forces you to ask yourself, what's possible? What haven't I considered yet? What other avenue is available to me? What other resources have I not tapped into? Okay, where the threat lens narrows the focus to something that is dangerous. The possibility lens expands this area of focus to some possible potential. All right, finally the curiosity lens. The curiosity lens is a mental filter that interprets experience through wonder, openness, and a desire to learn. All right, and this is in direct contrast to judgment or blame. So instead of labeling, it simply asks. Instead of reacting, it explores. So it doesn't give something a label, it asks questions. I wonder what this is. What could this possibly be? Again, what more can I learn here? And instead of reacting, instead of becoming hostile or blaming, it simply explores all of the other possible avenues, especially some more of the positive ones. All right. Now, of course, now that we know what are some of the common lenses, the good ones we can keep, the not so good ones, how do we work on shifting those? All right. And there's some practical things that we can do. So, first and foremost, we got to become aware. So, I want to do what we call the lens check in. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, what lens am I using right now? Name it and give it a name. And so, as it relates to any stressful situation, any difficult situation, any uncomfortable situation, what lens am I using right now? And give it a name. All right. Is it the threat lens? Is it the anger lens? Is it the judgment lens? And these are not the only ones, these are just some of the more common ones. All right. In any stressful moment, in any difficult moment, any hard situation, what lens am I using right now? And give it a name. Next, we're going to attempt to swap that lens with something more useful to us. And so, if you chose the threat lens, then let's try the challenge lens. If you chose the anger lens, let's try the possibility lens. And if you chose the judgment lens, let's try the curiosity lens. So, whatever lens you chose, ask yourself, if I chose a different lens, if I chose challenge, if I chose possibility, if I chose curiosity, what would I see different? Ask yourself, if I chose a different lens, what would I see different? Now, I understand that not everybody uh, is going to be able to name it, or may not be able to name it, or just might be having some difficulty. So, if you do your lens check in and you can't figure it out, and um, if you that means you can't do the lens swap, then here's an alternative option. This is called the borrowed lens. We're going to borrow somebody else's lens and how they see things. So I want you to imagine somebody you love, somebody you care about, somebody you trust, someone you consider a friend, a mentor, a role model, anyone that you look up to. All right. And imagine how they would view the difficult situation, the challenging situation that you are dealing with. Imagine how they would respond and then do what they would do. And so I know we all have that person in our lives where, if this person was here, he'd be doing this. Or if she was here, she would say this. Or I know if this person was in my situation, they would be going over here and doing this. So think about somebody that you trust. Think about somebody that you look up to, a mentor, a role model, a family member, a friend, a coworker, anybody. It doesn't matter. Take your situation, put them in your situation, and then imagine how they would respond and copycat them. Do what they would do, or do what you think they would do. And why is this? Why are all these things important? How do we get over these things? How do we deal with these things? First thing we got to do is become aware. We have to be aware of our lens, right? Observe how we react to situations. Am I seeing this through fear, judgment, curiosity? Which lens is dominating my perception? All right. And one of the things that we can begin to do is journal or write these things down. All right. So journal or track any patterns that you notice. If you notice recurring lenses, if you notice the triggers, if you notice any emotional responses, let's journal those things down. Let's write them down. And if by chance you don't have a journal, feel free to click the link in the show description and get yourself the official Master Your Mindset Journal. along with any other gear or apparel you might enjoy. But let's go get that journal and make sure that we are tracking this thing. Next, ask yourself some questions. Is this lens showing me what's real, or is it my interpretation of what's real? All right. What would I see if I used a different lens? And this is a critical one. What evidence supports my perspective? What evidence contradicts my perspective? Again, is the lens showing me what's real, or am I just interpreting it a certain way? What would I see if I used a different lens? And what evidence supports this perspective, and what evidence contradicts my perspective? Let's practice. All right, let's practice using different lens. So curiosity, let's ask questions instead of assuming. Look for opportunity in difficulty. Imagine potential instead of limits. The more you consciously shift, the more it becomes automatic. And that's really what we want. We really want these things to become our new normal. So the more that we practice these things, the more normal they will become. In sports, you call it muscle memory, right? The more you repeat it, you do a thing, the more accurately and consistently you can do it at a high level. And that's really what we want to do. And then, of course, seek that external feedback. I know a lot of people might have an issue with this, or some people may have an issue with this. Um, this is really going to come down to the circle of influence that you have around you, who you keep close to you. So you can look to, and we said it in the question earlier, trusted mentors. You can look to coaches, family members, friends, peers, loved ones, spouse, anybody that can help you navigate and see and understand what your blind spots are. Those are the people that you want to go to. Don't go to those people whom you know are just going to empathize with you and feel sorry for you and tell you everything that you desire to hear. No, 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 no. Go to the people whom you know are going to tell you what you need to hear. All right. And simply ask them, how am I seeing this? Am I missing something? Am I off base? Am I dead wrong? And you need those people around you to say, yes, you know what? You tripping. Yes, you know what? You need to go back over there and do this. Nope, you messed that up. You need to go fix it. Like, you need those people. So let's reflect back on some things, right? And I want to give you some things to reflect on this week until next show. Some of the things I want you to reflect on: what lens am I currently looking through as it relates to any situation you're dealing with? So when you deal with some of those difficult and challenging situations, ask yourself, what lens am I currently looking through in this situation? Okay. Then ask yourself, what alternative lens can I adopt in this situation? And remember, we talked about the curiosity lens, the challenge lens, and the possibility lens. Remember, there are many different lenses. These are just some of the ones that we talked about, but ask yourself, what alternative lens could I adopt in this situation? And finally, what lens reflects the person I want to be? What lens reflects who you want to become? And choose that one. And if it doesn't have a name, if I didn't talk about it, give it a name. Call it whatever you want. Which lens reflects the person you want to be? Finally, as always, I'm going to leave you with some affirmations. There's going to be two for you today. Affirmation number one: I choose a lens that fosters peace, clarity, and confidence. I choose a lens that fosters peace, clarity, and confidence. Once again, I choose a lens that fosters peace, clarity, and confidence. Affirmation number two: I have the power to choose how I perceive every situation. I have the power to perceive. I have the power to choose how I perceive every situation. Once again, I have the power to choose how I perceive every single situation. Kings, my final thought for today is this. Your lens shapes how you see the world, how you interpret events, and how you respond to challenges. It colors your reality, it influences your emotions, and subtly guides all of your decisions. When you master your lens, you will gain the ability to shift perspective, respond with intention, and create clarity and understanding in just about any situation you deal with. Awareness alone, though, isn't enough. Well, we can be aware of our lens, but that's not enough. It's how we act on what we see. It's how we respond to what we interpret. It's the choices we make repeatedly. And those form the patterns that define our life. And this is where the habit dimension comes in. Habits are the practical expression of mindset. They're either they either reinforce destructive patterns or they build productive ones. All right, habits are the practical expressions of our mindset, and they are doing one of two things. They are either reinforcing destructive patterns or they are building productive ones. So next, we will explore how to identify, how to cultivate and transform habits so that your lens and your actions work together to create the life that you desire. Until then, thank you all for listening. Remember, check your vibe. Yes, indeed. People, if this podcast has shifted your mindset or moved you to change your vibe, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with somebody that you love, somebody that you care about, or someone that you believe can vibe in a new way. Leave me a review, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at KingYesIndeed. Also, if you are interested in vibe coaching consultation, please email me at kingyesindeed@gmail.com. Let's find more personally tailored approach to your vibe. And yeah, I give one-on-one coaching. I can do group coaching through mind or vibe or mindset coaching classes. Until next time, people, check your vibe. Mind bright, vibe right. Yes, indeed.